All right. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Kate Mueller. I am the product and customer champion and resident cheesemonger here at KnowledgeOwl. So I do a little bit of everything. I write most of our documentation. I do most of our manual testing of feature enhancements, new features, and some of the more complicated bug fixes. I write blog posts. I do some support tickets still, a little bit of everything. So if you're juggling writing documentation and doing other things, you're not alone. A lot of us do that. And today's topic is one that is near and very dear to my heart, which is basically how to use the KnowledgeOwl feature set to make it relatively fast and easy to keep your content updated when things change out in the real world. So that might be if you're documenting a software product, you've got a new release that goes out and you've got feature enhancements or totally new feature or bug fixes. Or if you're documenting internal policies and procedures, how do you find the stuff that needs to be updated when policies and procedures in the real world get updated and you need the documentation to be updated? So kind of my background to this problem, when I started at KnowledgeOwl, I inherited our support knowledge base. So I inherited an information architecture I didn't know anything about, and a whole bunch of content that had been written by a whole bunch of different people over a period of time. And my kind of first goal when we started releasing new features and things was like, all right, I've got to find the existing documentation on this and update it so it reflects what like the new changes are. And in the beginning, the only way I really had to do that was searching for things and going through the category hierarchy to try to find the areas where I thought that content lived. And as you probably imagine, that didn't give me a very high degree of confidence that I was updating all of the places. It also took me way longer than I wanted it to take me. So what I'm going to walk you through today is the process that I use to keep our support knowledge base updated. Hopefully some of the concepts in these features and the process itself gives you some new ideas, or at least helps you feel more confident in things that you're already doing. So let me share my screen. There are a couple concepts that this process relies pretty heavily on. One of them is tags. The other is the manage articles interface, custom filters there. So let me talk through each of those a little bit. So in your articles, you can create tags that basically add some metadata about what the article contains. Tags are not automatically indexed for search. They actually run in a separate search entirely. You do not have to tag content for it to be indexed. You don't have to tag content for any type of basic content functionality. If you do have tags, as search results are returned, you might see this little tag section that displays the tags that have been assigned to that article. Those are what we would consider publicly available tags in KnowledgeOwl. But we also have this option to create hidden internal tags. And that is like my favorite feature for this. And that's where we're going to start today's talk. So just as a kind of a quick rundown, tags by default are publicly available. But within your tags library, which is under library tags, you have the option to edit any existing tag. And when you do so, there's this little visibility section with hide tag from readers. If you check that box and click edit tag, it will save that tag as being hidden from readers, which means that it won't show up anywhere in your live knowledge base. It will only show up on the app side of KnowledgeOwl, which makes tags a really useful tool for things like auditing, because you can add a whole bunch of them your end users will never see, and you can use it to classify, filter, and do all kinds of fun things. So I'm going to update one here that I discovered should have been internal and wasn't, just so you can see that process. In my case, I use naming conventions to help me figure out which tags should be internal and which shouldn't. So anything that's public facing is just a normal word. So like announcement. That's a public facing tag. Background image, public facing. The ones with the little lock here, those are tags that have been designated as internal. So what I'm going to do here, I have this little INT. I use that prefix. You don't have to. I just find it easier when I'm trying to type ahead and add my tags. I'm going to edit this guy so that it is hidden from readers. They'll update me so that it's locked. And if I come out here, and I try to do a tag search now, I'm not going to get that tag returned, but I will get any tag that still exists. So my announcements tag will show up. It was announcement. To do a tag search, you put a colon in the front of the search term. That limits it to tag stuff only. And once we've got these internal tags, this is really where the meat of this audit process happens, right? So what I've done, since I'm documenting KnowledgeOwl as a product, is I've created a tag largely for each page within the app. So the articles page, the manage page, home page, various libraries. There's sort of a convention in how I've set them up. So a lot of them are like internal reference, and then it lists the page that it's referencing. So some of these are just like it references the glossary, or it references editing a glossary term. I partially use the URL for this. It's also just sort of like a made up nomenclature on our part. But then within our content, anytime I create new content, anytime I update content, part of what I'm reviewing during that time is the tags that are assigned to it. So nearly every page in our knowledge base has at least one of those internal tags that says this references whatever the feature is, whatever the page is. I do that for any of the content in it. I also do it if it only has a screenshot or a passing reference. And here's the reason why. Once you have tags added to content, you can hop into Knowledge Base Manage. And by default, what this gives you is a set of standard filters that will pull based on publishing status, but you can create any number of custom filters that you want. And tags are one of the potential fields here that you can work with. So let's say I did want to make some updates to my documentation on widget stuff. What I can start to do is look for part of that tag. It doesn't have to be the start of it. You can, if you spell it properly, it will start to do a typo head and suggest to you tags that you want. For things like this, where I'm trying to say, all right, I want to find everything that only has a given tag, do it as an included tag. My authors probably aren't really important here, but I'm going to make sure that I'm only looking at published and needs review content, because that's the only stuff that's live that my readers can currently see. And once I click create filter, we'll actually use all of those settings to give me a list of every single article in my knowledge base that had the tag for that particular page. Things I love about this. I can come in and whip up a new filter in about 5 seconds. It's pretty fast. It also gives me this delightful little list that stays open. So if you click one of these articles, they'll open in a new tab. So you can come in, check if you do need to update anything, make the updates, whether that's a new version or whether it's just like editing in place. And once you get done and save your changes, you close that tab, you're right back into that manage filter again. And you can work on the next article down the list and the next article down the list. If you are doing this with something where like, you've got, a really high number of these. So like, let's say I have 100. What I might do at that point would be to say, okay, now that I've got this list of 100, what I could do here is say, I want to select everything that matches this filter. I could bulk edit it and add a special tag that's just part of this audit. So like review 16 November. I'm just going to create that one on the fly. You can update all of the articles with it. And then you'd be able to kind of work through this list and remove those tags as you went. So the list would get smaller and smaller. I usually don't end up having to do that because most of our pages are usually like 20 to 25, but with really large audits, I find that really helpful. At that point, I could come in and say, all right, I want everything that actually has, I've already forgotten what I named that tag. Needs something. There we go. Needs review, 16 November. I can update my filter. Now right now I'm getting the exact same list, but as I go through and make those updates, I can, make whatever the edit is to my content, then come down here and remove that tag to signify that it's been addressed in this audit, resave it. And then once I refresh my manage articles filter, I kept the old tag, so that's not a great example. Once I come in and update my filter, the article that I had previously updated drops out of that. So my count will get lower and lower and lower. I can work my way all the way through the audit and update my stuff. The big lifts in this workflow is the upfront investment of figuring out your tags, getting all of your content tagged. And that did take quite a good chunk of time in the beginning. But the benefits from that of being able to come in and say, okay, we released this update, and you'll see I've got a whole bunch of these that are like, oh, let me find everything that talks about versions because we released a new functionality in versions. Let me figure out all the places I might have to update. Having that list, not having to do searches, not being like, okay, let me go navigate through the content and find everything I need. It is a huge time saver across the board. The tag usage might evolve over time. So in the beginning, I did stuff that was, one tag per page URL. There are some cases where I've added tags for individual pop-ups that have a lot going on in them because, if we make changes to that pop-up, I want to be sure I grab all the places that it's referenced, and sometimes certain patterns in pop-ups like delete confirmations get used a whole bunch of places across the app. So you can adapt it to kind of fit your exact needs, but the core functionality is put a bunch of hidden tags on it, create some managed filters to pull the tag that you care about, and then work through that list. Whether you're adding an extra tag to kind of help you manage that specific audit, or whether it's something you can just do real fast off the cuff and then just be done.